What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Mike Mal here, Athletor Podcast, coming at you. The incomparable Frank Popolizio is this week's guest. You know, one of the things that I really wanted to dig into at first was kind of his origin story, right? Where did Journeymen Wrestling events kind of stem from? And you'd be interested to know that it really didn't have a whole lot to do with running events. It had more to do with learning technique. Excuse me. Then it gets into more of the stuff that we see at the college level now and how it's affected by the fact that we want to run businesses and we don't want to just subsidize some wrestling. And then I think you'd be really interested to see what Frank Popolizio would do with a magic wand in wrestling. Athletor Podcast coming at you. Don't go anywhere, folks. Got lots to talk about, Frankie. Athletor Podcast, Frank Popolizio is knee deep in cow shit, and he
turkey
pulls himself
shit. Worse. It's turkey shit. It's not cow. Cow is better. It's turkey shit. That's the worst shit you could have.
Okay. If you say so, Farmer Frank.
Yeah. Not according to my dog. He loves to eat turkey poop.
Dog.
Okay. Frank, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, brother.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Okay. We got lots to talk about. Number one. Everyone knows the Journeyman Fall Classic, and everyone knows the Collegiate Classic, and everybody knows that you've been putting together some of the most high-level events for the better part of, let's call it, almost 25 years, right? About that? Am I crazy for saying that?
1999 is when we started to do some stuff.
So I was dead on, basically. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's impressive.
But I don't know that everyone knows the origin story of Journeyman events. I was kind of intrigued myself. How did you start giving yourself all these gray hairs, brother?
Originally the first energy was when my brother Pat was at Oklahoma State, and he was he was under the John Smith and Pat Smith, and I would go out there and visit, and the first wave of energy had to do with technical skill. I didn't have that kind of technical background. When I really think back, I really didn't know wrestling all that much, and being exposed to Oklahoma State, Coach Smith, and all those guys under that, it was just a whole different world. And so that got me it was like a revelation. It was like I didn't know anything at all, and every moment was learning. I didn't realize how much you couldn't know. And I really had no idea, none, that it was that technical. And so I started a journey then. And more importantly, the journey had to do with recruiting. When my brother was going through that process, we really didn't have any expertise or any background in how to navigate through the recruiting process. So I got an education, right? And I was just 5 years removed from my brother. So trying to help him along, and I learned in the process. So that started it. And then we started going to competitions and seeing things like Bedlam, seeing things like the rivalry between Iowa and Oklahoma State at that time, which was a very unique rivalry. It still exists to this day, but not in the same capacity, right? There was a history there with Gable and Smith, Leroy, and it got carried over with John. He was a little bit, fired up about it, and it bled through, right? You could feel it. And so when I would go to a match, and they would quite literally have 15,000 people, I'd never seen anything like that before. So I was like, I want to do this. I never replicated that, obviously, and I don't think you can unless you're in Carver Hawkeye Arena or, at Penn State or Oklahoma State. There's only a few people that can replicate that. But in any event, that was the genesis. That was the catalyst. That was where it all started to come into play. And then I started the Northeast Duels. Later in my tenure, I started saying, I'm going to create a tournament. I'm going to create college wrestling coming here. And the first group of teams, it was like Coach Beekner from Buffalo. It was James Madison. It was what do you call it? East Stroudsburg. And there was I think it was American at the time. It was like a quad. And then American backed out, not backed out, but they couldn't travel. So right out of the gate, I was dealing with I didn't know anything, and I was dealing with the scramble right out of the gate. And I figured it out. Obviously, we got it done, but that was the start of it. That's where it all stemmed from my brother going to Oklahoma State.
And then you venture into high school events. And one of the things that is really important to me about you is you have been able to see around corners better than most. Okay. B, have always tried to innovate when you can. And C, I don't know that there's a better team involved in execution of a perfect event, right? So let's start off.
That one's the most important, that last piece. So when you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. You're a piece of the puzzle for us, just getting word out. That's one piece of the puzzle, right? And then we try, as corny as it may sound, and I guess delusional as it may sound, but when you watch the UFC, they have the same characters doing the same things over and over again, and they're really good at it, right? And we try to do the same, where we have the same people doing the same things that are really good at it and get better at it. And sometimes we got to switch you around, find where you're better. But by and large, we got a really good crew, and they help, like you said, execute, which is, there's two parts of this, right? There's three parts. One is come up with an idea. You got to have a vision. Then you got to recruit to get people to see your vision. And that's the hardest part. And then you actually execute. And that's got to be spot on too, right? You all three have to be in line with one another, and all three have to be efficient.
Yeah. But the vision to me was impressive. I don't think you get enough credit for the Journeyman Fall Classic. Okay. I think it's such an incredible event. And this is not just to pat you on the back. I truly mean this. Having pools wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing. No one did it.
Right. Well, you know who did it? And you got to give credit where credit is due, was Gary from Iron Horse, Mezzacapo. And he had this, he had this little thing that he would match guys from New Jersey up. And it was usually a 4-man round robin. But it was really awesome. It was really small, tiny, invite only. And we happened to be a part of that. And I was like, wow, can you imagine this concept on steroids? And you put like, quality, and kind together, and then get people throughout the United States. So that's where it came from. I'd love to have, take the credit for it, but
maybe you're right. And I'm a Jersey guy, and I think I was in Texas at the time, but I'm a Jersey guy. I didn't even know he was doing that.
It was real quiet. It was low key. But we made that step, and then we really got creative because people would say, why am I in that pool? I want to be in that pool. How come I don't have a shot at, and so we started like, how can we get a little bit more reach? And so we were like,
involvement, sure.
Right, let's do an 8-man round robin, right? And it was like, okay, I'll give you 4 matches. So now, then if all of a sudden you're number 9 and you're in another bracket, and they'd be like, yo, what about me? I can't wrestle the winner of that one. And it's like, crap, let's do a 12-man. So we figured out how to do 12-mans. Then we got into like, what if we have an odd number? What if it's 13, 14, 15, 16, right? Or, an odd number. And then we started evolving into that. And then we got as far as a 24-man elaborate, unique round robin. It's a modified round robin, if you will, but everyone comes
where they
there.
Cross bracket.
Yeah. It's a pooling of like quality and kind. And that, I think, after a while of trying to listen, we've been doing this for about 10 years at the college level. And people were like, nah, I don't know. Right? This is like a Pee-wee tournament, is what they said. Well, now there's 24 teams, D1 coming. It's probably the best tournament out there. And I don't mean tournament like it's the most desired by the coaches.
Mm.
They're like, we need that, especially early in the season. We need this. We need matches. We need matches that fit the level that the guys are at. There's guys that are maybe third string. He needs an opportunity. He doesn't need to go to an open and get thumped.
He doesn't need to go to CKLV and get his dick kicked in. Right.
Yeah. And maybe wrestle, a couple matches, and then you're there all day. You're getting home at 1:30 in the morning. So part of our formula and the success of it has been that we don't get greedy. We bring in the right amount of people and have the right amount of mats. So by and large, it's a 9 to 4 gig, right? You're done. You're going home. And especially at the collegiate level, that's important. Guys study.
It's appreciated. It's appreciated.
Yeah, like more than you can imagine, right? Like they talk about it extensively. But on the high school side, I think you're onto something. I think we were, as Loretta Lynn famously said, you got to be first, best, or different, right? And I think we weren't necessarily first, but I think we were best at it, and it was different. And then from that, I think P&L does it now too, similarly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's important, dude.
It's important.
It's important, dude. Like the P&L is using that model for a very specific reason.
Yeah, sure.
When I talk to Skinny about it, I go, listen, my kid last year was a incoming freshman. He's not wrestling the best kids in the country. And if he does, he's going to have a tough day. He's going to have a tough day.
Go 0-5.
That's not,
right.
A good chance he goes 0-5. We need that.
And I'm not saying specifically your son, but somebody in that, my son, my son, right? It's in the same category where he's decent. He's a state qualifier. Well, you need to be around guys that are right in that realm, like let's see where we're at, and make them tough matches, but within grasp, right? And have a, here's the funny part. At the high school level, everybody wants to be in the A bracket. Everybody. And I'm like, yo, take a minute. Take a second.
I remember last year you said to me, hey, look, and you literally said to me last year, my son's an incoming freshman going to the Journeymen Classic. You called me and you almost were like trepidatious to be like, listen, I know you're not going to love this, but is there any way you consider putting your son in the B bracket? I'm like, hell you would. Because but you're right. Most high school wrestlers doesn't think
and then this year he went in the A bracket, right?
Yeah,
and he got he did, but he won at the end.
Yeah,
right. He was starting to win some matches there, or be competitive, solid. Competition.
Sure.
Right. Matches.
100%.
And that's all. And then I imagine next year, if he comes back, he's going to be probably middle to top of the pack, right? That's how that game goes. But the
Absolutely.
funny part is everybody wants to be in the A bracket. At the college, everyone wants to be in the B bracket. It's a whole different game, right? It's like, yeah, we don't want that big of a day, But I think there's a seat for everybody, and that's what makes it valuable. And we're doing it on the world level now. We're one of the few people that have had the opportunity to work with the UWW and be stamped as their developmental tournament. And they're looking at me like, what's this format? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Guys aren't traveling across the world for a match, right? They're getting 5 matches, and in the right, it may be different for a guy from Peru or Bolivia than it is Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan.
No doubt.
Right? It's a different world, and so maybe they're going against state qualifiers as opposed to number 3 guy on the ladder, or number 1 guy on the ladder wrestling PJ Duke. That doesn't
right. That's not going to help. That's
not
not going to help
anybody.
It
doesn't help.
Right.
It doesn't help PJ, and it doesn't help the guy from Peru. Quite frankly.
Okay. So I have these written down. The innovation, that's your vision, that's your goal. The execution is the team around you. And the third thing that we haven't talked about yet is your ability to see around corners, your ability to predict, even though it's not always perfect, predict the future of these events, how do you do that? That's really hard.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if I'm doing it right or not, but I know this. Sometimes you're looking so far out that you feel like you're lost. Like nobody gets you, nobody understands it, and you're almost on the bottom. Okay, but eventually you realize that you were maybe ahead of it. Maybe you were, you had a vision. I won't say visionary because that's corny, but freestyle world classic. Oh my God. When we first started, there was 100 people total, and half of them were from another country. And I'm spending all this money to bring all these people in, and nobody sees value in it. Zero, like almost zero. And then eventually you get like Yanni, Vito. Yeah, wow, this is really important. We really see value in this. And so they start coming. And then it starts to, pick up a little bit of speed, but it's a 10-year overnight success, right? For
10-year overnight.
10 years you're going, oh my God, nobody sees what I see. Nobody cares the way I care about it. And maybe I'm wrong. Like there's been many times where I said, we're done. We're out. I'm out of the game. Let's hold the Pee Wee tournament. Let's hold the Pee Wee. And people will come,
and they will. That's the worst part. They will. That's the worst part is you run an event like you look at RMN and go, it's so easy. Why can't I just do that? But you don't want to turn into that.
There's no disrespect to a Pee Wee tournament, but it's you're trying to do stuff that will change the game, good for America, good for the world, really that kind of stuff. And it just sometimes you're looking around the corner and there ain't nothing there. So,
there's nobody with you.
It's lonely. Lonely.
How many times have you thought about this is too much? Because you get crazy.
Listen to me. I have quit 1 million times in my head. 1 million. 1 million. Where I've said, I am done with this. This is absolutely crazy. It may some years we spend like $75,000 to bring in foreigners, and there's 100 Americans that come.
Yeah.
What? It doesn't make any sense. And you stare in the mirror and you're like, I'm done. And then all of a sudden you get a call from Azerbaijan and you're like, yes, we're doing this. We're going to do it again. That's probably what drugs are like, I mean, it was just, it tilts me and I run with it. We just did it. You saw it. You saw some of it, right? When we had girls from all over the world come in, we had 9 countries. We've learned to split that up so that the girls can have their own time internationally. I'm talking, right? Where before we're doing it with the boys, and that makes it really complicated, just bringing in that many people. So we split it, the effort once in the fall and the other ones in the spring. So we had the girls here. You saw some of the action that took place, and it was really, really competitive. But you got people from all over the world, and it is such a beautiful thing to come together like that.
I love every part of it. I really do. And selfishly, we brought you met Chris. He's a good friend of mine, and his daughters wrestle for me.
Yep.
She wrestled a Euro
Weren't they
champ.
on the camera? Weren't they helping?
Yeah. They'll dude, they're aces. Like their kids are troopers. Like those 2 girls that you met, they're absolute troopers. Now, you haven't seen their handiwork yet, and some of it looked like Michael J. Fox was handling the camera, but that's here nor there. Why would you don't say that, Frank? That's not nice.
It was bad. Listen, I can't believe I laughed at that.
But Ava Federa gets to wrestle a Euro gold.
Yep.
This year's returning world champion at her weight class, at her age group. She catches 2 wins. She's in the freaking rankings now all of a sudden because she decided she wanted to come into Journeyman World Classic for women. Like I don't know if you know this, but that's like a life-changing event for a girl like this who is, she's not real good in folk style. She's really not. She sucks on bottom, and for a reason. Like, hey, you want to win an Olympic gold medal? Yeah, I got to wrestle more freestyle than you do folk style. Sorry, you just do. So But now all of a sudden she finds herself in these high school female rankings. They wrestle freestyle in college, bud. Nobody gives a shit if you can get out from bottom. No one cares, right? So it's like,
New York is going to be girls freestyle. That's it.
Because it should be. It should be. And some of the states are following suit, and it makes sense. It doesn't make sense for them to wrestle one style in high school and then another in college. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you're out here quiet, and I don't know if it's as quiet as it used to be, but you're quietly changing lives of some of these girls and obviously the boys. But it's a cool freaking thing, Frankie.
I think we're really gonna next year. It's gonna be game over. I think we become, top 3 girls event in the United States. I do. I feel that way. I feel it's right on the cusp. This year we doubled, right? We doubled from a year ago. And I think it's going to go, who's number 1 was on the same day or day before or whatever, day after. So that impacted some of the tip of the spear. But we would have had all those. I know for a fact, because they reached out. So I feel confident we're headed in the right direction with that. We're headed in the right.
It's amazing.
And it's impactful. I know it is. I know when you can wrestle world level, you start saying to yourself, I belong. And once you belong, think you belong, the game's over.
Immediately. Dude, it's so funny that you say that, because now I come back, I start going to practice with this girl, and she's all of a sudden, she's super Euro. She's going outside step on girl. Like, hey, relax. Let's stay in our wheelhouse, shall we? Okay, you're a swing single kind of girl.
It's funny, but part of the opposite side of this is a couple times I was team leader for cadets, and so I would head over to the Worlds, and people would be like, "Oh, I got so and so from Uzbekistan," and they're looking, and I'm like, "Yo, he was at our event. He's at our event. Here it is. Here, look it up." And part of me is also saying, where were you? Where were you? What you
You
now
didn't have to fly to
first
Amman,
feel.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have that first feel at the World Championships. Have it in Albany, New York. They're the same guys.
Mhm.
They're the same dudes.
Yeah.
So anyway, some of them go right to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Police.
Yeah.
You remember Chittum? We had Chittum wrestling Polides, and Chittum, he doesn't know who he's wrestling, and Polides doesn't know who he's wrestling, and Chittum was young at the time, but he looked like Rocky Marciano out there. He was, and to the Europeans, that's just not
Not the way they wrestle.
acceptable. So that turned out to be, a fist fight, and then there were Russians there, and the Russians were like, "There's a fight, we're in." They ran across. They wanted to fight. It was crazy. It was, but to your point and to what we're talking about here, it can be a game changer, and it can gain that confidence that's needed to put people at a different place.
Yeah, it's interesting to me.
You got Dane going here. It's Fretwell too, out of all people.
Oh, Fred. What's up, Fred?
No, it was his wife.
Oh, Steph.
She's
So
better
you owe somebody
operator.
money. Trust me, you owe somebody money then. 100%.
No, we're doing hats, man. We're doing hats.
Yeah, that means that you owe them money. She's coming to collect. Okay. I love working your events, and I love talking to you about seeing around corners. I want to talk to you about the college landscape right now, Frankie. It just comes down the chute that Scotty sent us, and the Campbell wrestling team is going from 9 scholarships down to 4. They're going from maybe not even being able to wrestle their scholarship athletes this year. This is a product, in my estimation, and the reason I'm bringing it up to you is because you are multiple business owners, right? Like, you do run a working farm, you do run events, you do run a wrestling club. These are all profitable businesses run by one entity.
Yep.
To me, this situation that college wrestling is in right now is a product of us, meaning the wrestling community, truly wanting this to become a business, but not being set up as business owners. Care to elaborate on that, sir?
I think the other day that I turned on the TV and Oregon was wrestling or playing football against Ohio State. I don't follow it extensively, but I stopped. I said, wait a minute. Is that like number 2 versus 3? I think it was, right? I don't know anything, but I knew enough that it was 2 versus 3. And what did I do? Stop and watch. Just see what's happening. How did they make that happen? Right? We're in different conferences. How did that come to be? I'm sure if you ask them, the coaches, they would elect probably not to play each other. Right? That's the truth.
Sure.
But I'd imagine that game brought in a lot of millions. Millions of viewers, millions of dollars, millions and millions
of ticket sales. Yeah.
Everything, gear, you name it. And they're able to do it. They figured out how to capitalize on their product, to make it business, and to realize that you have to have other people making those decisions to say, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. Iowa versus Iowa State is going to happen. It's going to happen. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. Figure it out. On once a year, they're going to wrestle. Right?
Sure.
And what happens when that happens? Ba-boom.
Every time it sells out. Every time.
every single time. And I think we need more of that. We need, I've got Wranglemania that's happening on the 9th.
Nice.
November. And there's, dual meets. And I am adamant of the teams that are coming to the round robin. I say, you want in on the round robin? I need you to wrestle in a dual meet the night before. And it is twisting and turning and pushing and pulling to get across the line. And more often than not, the matches aren't the most appealing. If we're talking straight, we're going to talk straight. And I don't want to, I'm one of the few events that even exist that have multiple dual meets happening. So, it's a unique product in any event. You still getting to see duels and teams, but it's just really hard to get across the line on that. And to actually say, hey, let's have NC State wrestle Illinois. That would be cool, right? That'd be a great match. But they're looking at it like, hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why would I want to do that? What's the benefit of it? And I think fans look at it like, well, they don't care. Not that the coaches don't care, but wrestling, the
doesn't care.
The entity
we
doesn't.
Place no importance on it. We place zero importance on it.
Zero importance. However, everyone wants to follow duels. That's that's ultimate, with the exception of the NCAA tournament and maybe a few conferences.
No, it's the NCAA tournament. Period. And if you really want to be
honest, if you go to the
Big
Ten, it's I think they do a pretty good
job
at filling it.
They're profitable, sure. But with the only truly profitable entity, the asset is the NCAA tournament. So truly profitable.
So I mean, like I visit with these guys, and some of them will say these obscure things like, "Hey," and I'm talking coaches. You should have that. We should have the NCAA tournament in the first month of the season. Figure out who your champ is, and then let's do dual meets after that. And then they could roll in it. The colleges would roll in it. They would make so much money, you wouldn't even know what to do with it, right? I mean, you really would if you really built it up, right? Like we're gonna do in Nashville, right? Where you got, hey, Missouri's gonna wrestle Penn State. Well, that's Ohio State versus Iowa State. Oh my God, that's really cool. And they're gonna put everyone out. The ones they're gonna wrestle the one. Like, whoa, we haven't seen that in a while, right? Like, without it being in the within their conference, right? And sometimes that's even, you
don't even know. Yeah,
depends on where you're at, right? In the season.
Sure.
So I think there's, with the way things are right now, there is opportunity. There really is opportunity, but you got to figure out how to make that important. And I don't know who decides that, but I know in football they determined that it was important that Ohio State was going to wrestle Oregon, right? They figured that out. They knew that was important, and the other games and so on. So we're missing the boat on that. I mean it. We're missing the boat.
Yeah.
Missing the boat.
What do you think is what do you? I know the answer to this, but I want to see if you'll say it. What's stopping us?
Coaches. Ultimately, like that they are in charge of this part of it, where I think, they're at the end, it's not their fault, because all the value is in the NCAA championship. So the duels don't matter. They matter.
Right.
They don't actually matter. Right? It's
what people want to see.
They're inclined to follow a team and their guy 1 through 10.
Yeah.
He's straight up. He's going to wrestle NC State, or he's going to wrestle Iowa or Penn State. And I want to see who wins, who's the best, right? Man for man, pound for pound, right through from little to high, and they want to see that. They do. People want to see that. That's why they sell out. That's why. and
Mhm.
we're saying, hey, that's not important because March is really what we're graded on. And that is
Yeah.
validated living. You know, if it's the other way around where we're saying, actually, how many dual meets can you sell out? That's what your contract depends on. It'll change. The game will change
Immediately.
immediately.
It would change tomorrow. You know, and that's the funny thing is that, like, I've had your brother on this podcast. I've had other guys on this podcast, and we come to, if we want this sport to survive, we have to sell dual meets. And I sit there and I scratch my head because, well, we already have them. Like, they exist, right? It's not like we're coming up with this brand new model of thing. All we have to do is focus the attention differently. And we can't do that as a community. No, everyone pretty much is
Well,
everyone is pretty much
but
in
I
the know.
go back to football. Somebody else is making that choice. They just make the decision for you. They're doing the numbers and they're saying, we're going to make $30 million. We're going to do this. This is what's going to happen. It doesn't matter what you think. It's going to make that, we're going to make that move. And so
I don't care if your quarterback's out. I don't care if you're having a bad week of practice. I don't care.
Was it? They do it 2 years in advance or whatever. The schedule.
Yeah.
You know, they're working on it right now for, you know, a couple years down the line.
Yeah,
we're going to do this.
Yeah. So Joel, we got to get moving here.
Yeah.
What do you think, Joel? Anything else from your side?
No. Take it on.
All right, Frankie, we got 3 questions I got to ask you. Don't think about them. Just fire them off. What is the greatest wrestling shoe ever made? Ever. Go.
What was it? The Schultz there, right? The red.
Ones?
What was it? Or was that the Gable? The suede one that was in the 80s that you bought.
Oh, okay.
It was that the Dan Gable, was it Gable? Right?
Gable.
And then you never had to buy another one. They were forever. They were forever.
To be honest, shitty marketing by Asics because they don't get repeat customers, but great shoe. Great shoe.
It never ended. I still have mine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You only get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling? I've asked you this question before, but I love hearing yours.
Yeah, but mine's going to be different. It's not about single legs, double legs, and things like that. I got the people that impacted my life, right? It's going to be, you got Smith for me, John Smith. You got Brands, and I use that as one, right? Because they Brands for me was technical, right? They were Smith is technical. He was an absolute technical wizard, right? Brands mentality. I love their mentality. I love their single-mindedness. I think they're the best in the world at it. Kel Sanderson, he brings a whole different perspective, fun, and he's quiet, but there's a charisma, and I think that. And for me, Jay Robinson was huge. He impacted me tremendously from a marketing standpoint, a mind. He would do things, he'd throw things at the wall that something's going to stick, and it did. A lot of things did. And I really, those are in my world, and there's others, but those guys are the top for me.
Beautiful. Kathy Brands has been on our Mount Rushmore before because she is the giving us the Brands brothers. So yes, 100%. Okay, last one, and then we'll let you go back to your turkey poop. You get to wave a magic wand and immediately change the sport of wrestling. You can only change one thing though. What would you change with a magic wand?
National championship dual meets. That has to be in the formula.
That, I got to tell you, again, it's not, we're not far off of it. Like it would not be like everyone says that with their magic wand. We can do this tomorrow. We can literally do it by tomorrow.
I used to go to 2 events, maybe 3, but 2 events every single year for the last 20 something years. Right? And it was the NCAA tournament and the national duels. I would go and watch the national duels. I thought they were some of the most unbelievable matches, events. It was awesome back in the day when Division One,
when it meant something. Yeah, awesome. Frankie, thank you so much. Next event is Wranglemania and the Collegiate Classic, November 9 and 10. Anything else for these people to know about you or Journeyman?
No, we're trying to be the best we can be. So I need all the help and love I can get. I mean it. We're
beautiful,
humble about it. We need people. We need everyone.
You're the best. Please. Frankie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you.
Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.